is reason to fear the tiger shark. To hate the beast with vengeance, to mock, despise, and be repulsed by its hideous toothy grimace. There is also reason to respect the tiger shark, to admire its efficiency as a predator, to be awed by its tremendous size, to experience its grace underwater. From either perspective, the tiger shark invites controversy by the mere mention of its name. Notorious killer or necessary predator? These are the tales of the tiger shark. Surfers have been a prime target of shark attacks, and in Hawaii, wave riding with tigers is an accepted risk of the sport.
My name is Jude Chamberlain, and I've been surfing in the Hawaiian Islands almost 10 years now.
Tigers are known to pursue sea turtles into near-shore waters, where they are occasionally spotted among surfers. These close encounters are normally benign, leaving surfers with only shattered nerves as the tiger retreats to the deep. But in a rare instance, a tiger will turn its gaze towards human prey, with sometimes deadly results. Or, in the case of Jude Chamberlain, a very narrow escape.
At that point in my life, I didn't have a fear of sharks. I didn't think about sharks in the water. They never crossed my mind.
March 28, 1992, and Jude paddles out for another perfect day of surfing. No shadow on the reef, no flash in the corner of an eye, or the unexplained anxiety often felt by those being stalked. Oblivious to the predator below, Jude was about to feel a tremendous force that would rip the surfboard from beneath her and drag her helplessly by her leash-bound leg.
I was above the water and he was dragging me, I don't know, like 20, 40 feet behind like a fishing lure. And he did this body roll with it and kind of showed his underbelly and took the whole board underneath the water and disappeared. By then I knew I was in like really a lot of trouble. And I knew it was a shark, and my board was completely submerged, which is no easy task. It's not easy to hold an almost 7-foot board under the water completely, never mind by the tail.
As the board finally surfaced, Jude's leash went slack. The shark was gone for now, but the beach was still agonizingly far away.
As soon as I stood up on it, I grabbed my board and I looked at the back of it, and then it hit me because there was blood in the board and it was just big rip holes in it and this big perforation on the back. And I was just, oh my God, that was a shark. Okay, well, this is the board I was riding when it happened. And I just started shaking, just my whole body. And my friend kept trying to get me to answer a question. I couldn't talk. I couldn't form words. I couldn't get anything to come out of my mouth for like 5 minutes. I just stood there just like, and my whole body just started shaking. No. This here is the shark's mouth coming over the board.
Except for a crescent-shaped bite mark around her board's fins, Jude escaped the attack unscathed. But for this wave rider, surfing will never be the same.
It's a weird place for me now. I can't surf it in the morning alone. I've tried to do it like 10 times, thinking I would eventually get used to it, and I didn't. Every time I paddle through that one spot in the water, no matter how much I tell my mind, don't look over your shoulder, there's nothing there, I do. I always look.
Jude was number 3 in a series of 8 shark attacks that rocked the Hawaiian Islands from November of 1991 to June of 1993. Under pressure from a nervous tourist industry, the state of Hawaii launched a shark task force to deal with the attacks. The controversial decision was made to start killing sharks.
task force was formed back in early '92 to advise the governor on action to be taken after this rash of attacks, or during the rash of attacks. We came up with a policy that was basically go in and remove one or two big animals from an area where we had an attack, and that was it.
When the cluster of attacks ended in June of 1993, the Shark Task Force ceased operations. But it was not over for local surfers and part-time fishermen bent on continuing to avenge the attacks.
After we had this rash of attacks, a number of the independent fishermen, 3 or 4 groups basically here on the island of Oahu, sort of took matters into their own hands and have gone out fishing for tiger sharks on their own.
Convinced the tiger shark population had reached dangerous levels, fisherman Harold Blomfield is out to restore the balance. Tiger sharks have little commercial value, but money is not Blomfield's motivation. His plan is to remove large tigers before they become a menace to society. John Naughton often joins the independent fishermen on tiger shark hunts in a scientific capacity. Should the hunt be successful, Naughton will be on hand to collect valuable data.
Typically, when we're working with the independent fishermen, they often give me a call the night before when they're going to set the gear, and then I meet them first thing in the morning at the harbor.
Blomfield's line is quick to yield results. A small sandbar shark hooked the night before has been ravaged by a tiger. The sandbar's killer is not far behind. A large tiger is hooked and very alive on Blomfield's line. And with death imminent, it makes a final desperate effort to escape. The massive 12-foot shark is completely spent from its death dance. Now, Blomfield will quickly destroy the tiger with a pull of the trigger. With no laws to protect tigers from fishermen, the giant predator's future is uncertain, and the question of properly managing their population is still in doubt.
One of the problems we have here in Hawaii is we don't have an active inshore shark fishery, as you do in most places in the world. So consequently, we do have a rash of attacks. We go out, we knock them down, either the state does or independent fishermen do, and we don't have a problem then for 10, 15 years, and then bang, we're right back in the same situation. So this is one of the theories that's as to why we have these sort of peaks of attacks.
Returning to Haleiwa Harbor, the fisherman will distribute his catch to the locals. Meat will be gratefully accepted by the impoverished. Skin and teeth will be used for native Hawaiian ceremonial implements. Nothing will be wasted. It will be Naughton's task to record the shark's vital statistics and scour the body for data. He will record the shark's length, sex, and stomach contents. All of this information will give scientists a clearer picture of the tiger shark and may someday reveal why they occasionally attack humans. Naughton believes the most significant clues to tiger shark behavior are found in the stomach. By studying stomach contents, he's noticed a dietary shift towards sea turtles. And with the population of government-protected turtles on the rise, tigers may be adapting by including more turtles in their diet. This new taste for turtles may be leading sharks directly into the surf zone, where both turtles and surfers are known to hang out.
The sharks may be actively looking for turtles in these areas during low light levels, dusk, dawn, turbid water, white water generated by the surf. They see something moving above them because we know they're more successful at capturing turtles on the surface, slam into it. If it's a surfer, it's unfortunate.
In response to the attacks, over 70 tigers have now been killed, an act that has angered many native Hawaiians who view some sharks as spiritual ancestors.
It was offensive, and to see people loving to kill sharks made me sick. If you like to kill sharks, then you like to kill humans. It's that whole business that life is not worth anything and you might as well just kill it. I think the state went ahead with it because they thought it would protect tourism.
According to native Hawaiians, what was not being protected were ancient beliefs that some sharks were guardians, said to have led the first canoes of their ancestors to the Hawaiian Islands.
It becomes an aumakua, or a family guardian, a kind of a god for that family in particular.
Even today, many Hawaiians revere the ancient legends of women bearing shark offspring, and sharks providing chosen families their protection.
Sharks are part of the spiritual totem, or the spiritual aumakua that is in fact kin to us. Our bones belong to them. And of course the great shark in this area is what you call the tiger shark, and we call the striped one, the waha, the one with the chomping mouth. And so we ask permission when we enter his dimension and try to understand his ways. And those disciplines are called common sense to us.
In light of a storm of controversy, many sharks died to protect bathers. But even scientists are unsure if the hunts were actually a success or merely a psychological band-aid for a squeamish tourist industry.
One of the conclusions that we did reach from the task force meetings was that we definitely needed additional research, and particularly get a good handle on the movement of these big sharks within Hawaiian waters.
Armed with hooks, bait, and the latest sonic tracking technology, scientists launch a new effort to shed light on the mysterious predator that stalks Hawaii's beaches.
I'm Kim Holland. I'm on the research faculty at the University of Hawaii's Institute of Marine Biology.
Okay, you guys ready?
And for the last 4 years, we've been doing different kinds of shark research.
Okay, we'll set the surface gear first.
We know nothing about the normal movement patterns of tiger sharks, especially around populated areas like the coastline of Hawaii. So to address that lack of information, we've started a tracking and tag and release program to try and find out what the day-to-day movement patterns of tiger sharks are, whether or not they come back to the same place day after day, if they have a home range that they occupy, and if so, how big is that home range? How often do they come back to the same place?
Understanding the movement patterns of tiger sharks may be the most effective way to deal with attacks, allowing officials to target and selectively remove dangerous tigers where they live.
We really don't want to kill any more tiger sharks than we have to, because tiger sharks have a very important role in the ecology of the ocean. But until we know what their normal movement patterns are, whether they're resident or transient, how big their home ranges are, anything we do is going to be guesswork.
After laying a series of baited long lines, the team will return at dawn, hopefully to find live tiger sharks ready to be tracked.
Okay, I've got the end, Kim.
Sudden impact on the line. Beneath them, in the inky blackness, something has come calling.
I think we got one here. Yeah, it's a big one. Look at that.
A giant tiger shark has caught the crew by surprise, hooking itself before the line is set, and leaving Kim Holland with a very large problem.
What I think we should do is put a transmitter on its back, put an ID tag on its back, and leave it on the line and come back in the morning. And if it's still here, then we'll put an internal transmitter in it and take the external transmitter off its back and let it go and track it.
The crew maneuvers on slippery decks, working in darkness to plant a transmitter on the monstrous fish before it can escape.
Yeah, it looks to be a big one, that one, about 12 feet.
It is a losing battle. The tiger is too big and too fresh for the tenuous line.
He's gone. We've lost him.
Behind a curtain of krill, the shark escapes. Holland will now return at dawn to see what the other hooks have left him. For years, tiger sharks were thought to be territorial, defending small areas and unleashing their wrath on all who entered their domain.
It looks pretty quiet.
Holland's research is now revealing that tigers are not homebodies, but nomads, traveling in patterns over large distances.
I got it straight up front, about 400 yards.
Tiger sharks have a predictable home range. They revisit the same places over and over, but the size of that range can be very large. For instance, at least 30 miles from one side to another. That would indicate that the concept of surgically culling the population of sharks from a given beach is not feasible, because those sharks are going to be replaced by sharks coming from perhaps 30 miles this way and 30 miles that way and 30 miles offshore. So in order to knock down the population in a given area, you would have to fish and fish and fish. And that means killing a lot of sharks.
No bait on that last one.
A bait-stealing giant barracuda will be quickly released. Though other predators are sometimes hooked, the lines target large tiger sharks and are specially designed to keep animals alive. Sadly, non-targeted species like this sandbar shark sometimes do not survive on the line, but no animal is wasted.
So with this dead shark, we're going to cut it open and put it in a transmitter inside the same way we do with large tiger sharks. Sew it up, put the dead shark in the water, drive the boat away, and see how far we can hear the signal from.
Though the sandbar shark is dead, the graduate students will rehearse the exact procedures used to track a live tiger shark. Transmitters used to track live tigers are surgically implanted in the shark's underbelly, where they remain unobtrusive to the animal.
They have plenty of.
We just need the onions and we'll be all set. Okay, Carl.
We coat the transmitter with a combination of natural waxes, which makes it immune to or invisible to the shark's immune system, so they don't reject it and it doesn't cause any irritation. Once the transmitter is inside the fish, it'll go for at least a year with the battery power that it has. We sew the fish back up, take the hook out of the fish's mouth, or if it won't come out easily, cut it off and let the fish go.
The team will continue the simulated track, hoping to determine if the body wall of the shark impedes the signal strength of the transmitter. A hydrophone can monitor the pinging transmitter up to a mile away, revealing not only the shark's position, but also its depth.
Okay, the transmitter's in the shark. We got a real strong signal. We got beautiful water. Let's go for a 48-hour track. Okay, let's go. Okay, the way we track these sharks is by keeping that ping coming across the speaker as loud as possible. The hydrophone is fixed in line with the boat, so when the boat is facing directly at the fish with the pinger, the signal is loudest. when the nose of the boat goes away from the fish, it gets softer. So by keeping the ping as light as possible, we can follow behind the fish. And all that information is logged directly to the computer so we can plot the movements of the shark when we get back ashore.
Tracks can continue for tedious hours and days, far out into the Pacific, where curious dolphins relieve the crew's monotony by posing for a pole-mounted camera. Closer to shore, the reeling in continues without sharks until the line becomes suddenly heavy.
I think we got one here.
Big or little?
Can you feel it? Yeah, you can feel it. You can feel it pull.
On the final hook, a baby tiger shark is pulled to the surface in motionless disarray.
Baby tiger. Little one. The baby. Wow. But this baby is a possum-playing dynamo, giving Holland and his students all they can handle. Hooked in the mouth and snagged on the tail, the once exhausted shark saved its energy for a final struggle to escape. Its captors will work quickly to avoid stressing the animal any more than necessary.
Okay, this is just a simple ID tag. This fish is too small for us to put a transmitter on. Okay, there's our ID tag with a reward message, and this is tag number 53. See how the fish has gone completely quiet because it's upside down? Now when we turn it over and cut it loose, he'll come back to life. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut this stuff, I think.
Holland's ongoing shark research has been the most extensive look into the predator's dark world. Using donated tuna heads for bait, relying on grants and student volunteers, the project has now caught, tagged, and released 71 tiger sharks.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, we got some elbow clothes and some regular tuna.
In addition to the money that this kind of research requires, what it really needs is people. And I've been very fortunate in recruiting a really good bunch of graduate students that are good fishermen, good biologists, and good watermen. And that makes life a lot easier. So that when we're on the water, everybody knows what to do next, everybody has a responsible role to play, and we have a lot of fun in doing our research, and we think we're making some real strides in understanding the behavior of these very large and previously very hard to understand animals.
9.5 fathoms, right on the lineup. Let's go.
Oh, it's a following jumper from the top of the key. Oh, what a shot! It's in the hole. He drains it. All right.
I find tiger sharks to be absolutely beautiful animals. And one of the things that I've personally come to realize over the time that we've been doing this, that there is really no major threat to human safety whatsoever. We catch a lot of tiger sharks. They're right out there a few hundred yards off of swimming beaches. But in Hawaii and most other places in the world, we have very, very low incidence of interaction between tiger sharks and humans. They simply don't make a living by attacking humans, and they know the difference between a human and a pufferfish or a stingray, which is their normal diet.
Routinely, the team goes back to work, checking lines dropped the night before. Operating from the low-profile Boston whaler, they can quickly move into position to tag or implant a transmitter in a shark. Today, they will not have to wait long for a subject. An 8-foot female tiger sends the crew scrambling into position. From the support boat, Holland sends in an underwater cameraman to document the impending surgery. It will be a dangerous assignment. Hooked and very stressed, the tense tiger is even more unpredictable than normal. And as the cameraman moves in close, the shark begins an erratic dance. But is this a prelude to an attack? Reaching a frenzied level of anxiety, the tiger relinquishes its stomach contents. Then, as many sharks are known to do while stressed, it everts its entire stomach, a common behavior now captured for the first time on film. To calm the shark, Holland quickly brings it to the whaler and flips it on its back, inducing a tranquil, trance-like state.
Okay.
We're very fortunate in that sharks, and we now know that tiger sharks are one of them, when you turn them upside down, they go into what is known as tonic immobility. They basically zone out. And when they're in that state, upside down, you can make small incisions in the belly wall, put a transmitter inside and sew them up, and we feel that they have no sense of pain whatsoever during this process.
The transmitter-implanted sharks heal quickly from their minor surgeries. Some will even be recaptured up to a year later and implanted with new transmitters, providing an even longer-term look at tiger shark movements.
There we go.
Until recently, the only way to study large sharks was usually after they were dead. You could find out what they ate and how long they were and how many pups they had inside. But with the advent of sonic telemetry, where we can monitor the fish's movements both sideways and up and down in the water column 24 hours a day, this is really a new breakthrough. We're finding out a lot of things we had no inkling that occurred before this technology became available. This is by far the most extensive research into the movement patterns of large sharks around populated coastlines. And we feel we're right out in front in terms of the world scientific community and trying to understand exactly what large sharks do on a daily basis.
Kill or be killed. Hawaii's war on the tiger is now over, as attacks have dropped off. But most experts agree the tigers will be back. And when they return, Holland's research may give Hawaiians an alternative to indiscriminate fishing. For the first time, knowing tiger shark movements may save them from slaughter and protect us from the threat of attack. Without the protection of glass walls, few would enter the realm of the tiger shark. This is a man-eater of legend. Captured, but a stalker nonetheless, patiently circling and surveying those who share its eerie presence.
We get a lot of interest in tiger sharks. A lot of people seem to be really interested in seeing a tiger shark. And the reason for that is they've read so much about all the things they eat, how dangerous they are, and they've never seen one. So a lot of times people really want to see a tiger shark, and for that reason there's always a lot of interest in keeping a tiger shark in captivity.
Aquarium life has usually resulted in a quick death for tiger sharks. But this 7-foot juvenile has prospered in the 3.2 million gallon saltwater habitat at Atlantis Paradise Island, Bahamas.
They can be caught, and they seem to do very well initially, but they don't last very long in captivity. The longest one that's been kept is about 3 years and 3 months. That was done by SeaWorld of Florida in the early 80s. In general, they haven't done well, and we're not really sure exactly why, but we do see a lot of orientation to the walls. They tend to rub themselves on the walls.
The tiger shark's persistent attraction to the walls of tanks leads to nagging sores and abrasions. a decline in overall health, and ultimately, death.
The other thing that's quite interesting about them in captivity is you see all these pictures of really aggressive tiger sharks feeding on all these big objects, but in captivity they're actually very gentle and docile.
Though robust, the tiger is watched carefully. Should it fall ill, the aquarium will quickly release it back into the wild.
Unfortunately, we haven't been able to have the successful tank yet to keep tiger sharks, and so we don't know exactly what their requirements are. So we're still trying to figure out exactly what they need and what type of tank they need.
Keeping captive sharks alive is an art, and no one does it better than a Florida man who has also made it his business.
My name is David Casey. I collect sharks for public aquariums. I've been collecting sharks and fish for public aquariums probably for just about 20 years now.
Dave Casey knows sharks. From his home in the Florida Keys, he delivers up to 40 healthy sharks a year to aquariums, including several hard-to-handle tiger sharks.
Florida is a good place to collect sharks. Basically, the weather, it's warm all year round. We don't have a problem with the winter time having to shut down. There are the brown sharks or sandbar sharks migrate through twice a year, so we're able to get either females or males, whichever happens to be running through at the time. Lemon sharks and bull sharks and tiger sharks are all here.
Right now we're about 250 foot of water. The line will go right down to the bottom, anchor on each end, and then buoyed up on each end, so in case there's a problem losing the one end of the line, we can always locate the other end. Leave the line in for maybe 2 or 3 hours, no longer. We don't want to have any sharks dying on us.
Sharks are plentiful in the warm South Florida waters, and before the line is even set, a blacktip moves in to investigate. Hammerhead and lemon sharks are also common here, but today Casey is seeking browns and the elusive tiger shark.
Tiger shark in the Keys is it can be difficult to locate. I have certain spots that I go to and I collect them in these particular spots more often than other areas, but generally speaking, it's difficult to say, yes, I'm going to go out to collect a tiger shark and catch one. It's not that way. It's not that easy.
After the hooks have been in place for 3 hours, the reeling in begins.
On that hook. Hey Tucker, what's the matter with our hooks? No bait, no shark. Yeah, it's a brown. Yeah, bait's brown. No, it looks like a blacktip. We're gonna have to let that one go.
The blacktip sharks that we catch, we normally release. I've tried to keep them alive on occasion, but they don't ship as well. They don't do as well in transport is what I'm mainly concerned with. We try to cut the leader as close to the hook as possible and release it. We generally don't try to remove the hook from the shark we're releasing because it's basically, I feel as though it's going to put more stress on the animal. The hooks will rust or just simply come out on their own, generally 1-2 weeks or so.
One by one, the long line yields sharks. Day after day, Casey fishes. Blacktips, bulls, but no tigers and no browns. Then, with waning sun on the horizon, A brown is reeled in, fully spent from his battle with hook and line.
Yeah, it's a little tired, but he looks all right. Okay, Tucker, let's get the stretcher. Yeah, it's fine. It's coming around. Let's get moving. Okay, let's slide.
As the exhausted shark clings to life, Casey begins transport via his onboard live well. He is only minutes away from his backyard holding tank, and for the shark, every second counts.
Okay. Ready?
Yep.
Let her down slow. All right, let her
With
down.
the animal completely exhausted, Casey is now able to pull the hook without the danger of a slashing bite.
Looks good. All right, so when we get back to the house, what I'll do is I'll hop in, I'll get my wetsuit on, change real quick. You and Travis go ahead and pull the shark out. I already got the hook out, so put him on the stretcher, pull him in, and I'll make sure he's good before I release him into the tank.
All right, got it.
At 6 feet and nearly 150 pounds, this brown is nearly full grown.
Set it down, Chad, like you got him. Yeah, and then jump out.
Unlike tigers, brown sharks, also called sandbars, readily adapt to captivity and are often a staple of major aquarium shark tanks.
Nice and slow.
Scar-free and clear-eyed, it's a perfect specimen for a future public display. But few sharks are cosmetically perfect. Females are often seen with scars inflicted by over-amorous mates, and many sharks in the wild have been disfigured, struggling to escape death in fishermen's nets. Now with 12 sharks in his holding tank, Casey prepares to make his largest delivery ever. The challenge will be to keep the 7 sandbars, 4 sand tigers, and a juvenile tiger shark alive and well during an 8,000-mile journey across the Atlantic to their new home at Marineland of France.
Right now, I'd say most of the aquariums want the sandbar shark and the sand tiger shark. Of course, the tiger shark is always a desirable shark for aquariums, but they're a little bit more difficult to keep alive.
With its head poking out of the water like a trained dolphin, the tiger circles the tank at mealtime as if begging for food. Casey is one of the only shark collectors in the world to successfully capture and adapt tiger sharks to captivity. The key to Dave's success has been knowledge gained by working with the animals on a daily basis and making the shark's health his top priority.
The first thing I'm concerned with is to make sure it's feeding well. After it is feeding regularly, we keep an eye on it, see if it develops any sores anywhere. I like to make sure that she's able to acclimate to being in captivity before I'll actually deliver the shark to another aquarium. If I'll hold her here for maybe a year.
Now, just hours before the shipment to marine land of France, Casey's team makes final preparations on the small tanks that will sustain the sharks for over 24 hours. Oxygen will be circulated through the salt water by battery-powered pumps. They must be thoroughly tested. Should they fail in flight, the sharks would suffocate in minutes. With a net for a lasso and trading chaps for a wetsuit, Casey will wrangle the sharks from their underwater corral to the awaiting trucks. But unlike cattle, these little doggies have sharp teeth.
Watch out for the one right below you.
I wouldn't say that my work is really particularly dangerous. You just have to know what the dangers are and know how to avoid them.
Keep an eye on this guy, boys. Because he's a little feistier.
I was bitten one time by a sand tiger that we were transporting. Certainly wasn't the shark's fault, it was my fault because I had placed it on a stretcher which was inappropriate to be transporting it on. And I just had a quick nip in my hand, requiring about 30 stitches, but it certainly wasn't life-threatening.
Okay, the head's here. Down, man, down. Whoa, everybody. Handle that shark and tuck her over here to something. You guys know what you're doing? Yes, sir. All right, stretcher.
The tiger is the last of the dozen sharks to be loaded. And because of her value, she will be unloaded first if she survives the trek to France. A thrashing, twisting shark could easily snap its own spine. Casey takes no chances. They will be monitored constantly to keep them straight and calm for a hectic 3-hour ride to Miami International Airport.
Shark looks fine, all of them. I don't see any problems yet. The problem with the pump, been kind of a rough start so far, but we had a problem with one of the oxygen pumps. We switched over to the auxiliary. We should be okay, everything looks good.
The heat in the back of the trucks could easily kill the entire load of sharks in minutes. Though late to the airport, the caravan must stop often for a breath of fresh air and to replenish the floating ice bags that keep the water cool.
Whoa, baby. Help. Okay. Well, we are 1 hour and 25 minutes late. Call the airlines and make sure that they'll hold the plane for us, which I'm sure they'd love to hear.
The long, hot ride is taking its toll on the delicate cargo. And the quickly melting ice is no match for the intense Florida sun that heats the back of the trucks like ovens. As the miles roll by, it is the Tiger that takes a turn for the worse. Vomiting in her tank, gulping for air, and floating on her side, she fights to stay alive.
Alright, well, when we get to the airport, we'll check and then we'll switch them to the other tank if it looks bad. He'll be okay for another hour.
Okay, yeah, the other two tanks are good. They're clean.
I'd rather see them laying on their stomach, but tigers, it's common for tigers to do that.
Gambling that his assistant Tucker can keep the water clean for now, Casey will save his only spare tank for the long cross-Atlantic flight ahead.
It's for 3 rider trucks. 3. Next stop, Miami. We don't lose very many. I don't remember. It's been maybe 2 years, over a year since I've lost a shark.
With a chartered jet fueling on the runway, Casey's dozen arrives behind schedule, but all still alive. The Tiger, 7 sandbars, and 4 sand tiger sharks may be the most unusual cargo in airline history, but they will not escape typical airport security. Despite time being critical, each offloaded tank will be inspected from top to bottom in preparation for flight. Meanwhile, the Tiger is showing signs of improvement, leaving Casey and crew cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, he's looking good now. The water's clearing up and everything.
We don't have any problems delivering sharks with animals dying in a shipment. It does happen, which is very unfortunate. There have been times that we have lost, say, a shark in a shipment, and what is generally done is a veterinarian will do an autopsy on it, open the animal up, and find out quite often that the animal was sick to begin with. That's mainly the reason that I will hold the sharks in my tank before we actually go through all the trouble and risk of shipping and transporting.
By takeoff, the sharks have been in their tanks for just over 7 hours. Touchdown in France is still over 10 hours away. Safely through the first leg of the trip, Casey and his assistant Tucker can finally relax for now. Many sharks become more active hunters at night, and throughout the night flight they become increasingly restless. Casey has not fed the sharks for almost a week. The sharks are hungry, but the chances of them polluting their own water with excrement is lowered by keeping their stomachs empty. It will be a night of fitful sleep for Casey and Tucker. Sleeping in shifts, they must awake every 15 minutes to check on the precious cargo. Landing safely in France, the shark caravan continues to its final destination at Marineland. For the French, it is a media event befitting visiting dignitaries. All the sharks have survived the journey. But it is the long-awaited arrival of Le Tigre that everyone has come to see.
When I deliver a shark to a public aquarium, I guarantee that it will survive the shipment, the transport, that it'll arrive healthy. Generally, when we arrive to an aquarium, we'll remain at the aquarium. We like to remain at the aquarium until the shark does begin feeding. We know when we leave the aquarium that the sharks are healthy.
Until she is better acclimated, divers will guide the young tiger through her new home. Shedding the label of man-eater, she gently swims in the arms of a human, perhaps symbolizing a new era of understanding between man and shark.